Hey Lauren, so here's a update video on Maple. Been wanting to make this for a few days, but it's been kind of bad weather. So anyway, finally have a beautiful day and gonna get to make this video. So you had asked on text messages what my thoughts were on her being a kid horse, and so I wanted to just kind of talk about that a little bit. My initial reaction is, yeah, I think she can be a kid horse. It'll probably take longer than just the 30 days we had planned on. So I don't know, if leaving her here longer is in your budget or in your plans. That's up to you. But just being honest with you, I think it is going to take longer than just 30 days to get her to where I would be comfortable telling you as the client, yeah, go ahead and put your kid on this horse. It's going to be a good outcome. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I did want to make a distinction when we say the word kid horse. I think there's two different things we can mean by that. There's babysitter horse, which is very rare, few and far between, but the kind of horse that you can put anybody on, just any novice, and whether they're off balance or they're not doing the right stuff, whatever, the horse is going to take care of the human. That's a pretty special horse, and frankly, it takes a lot of upkeep and maintenance. Not like physical maintenance, but a lot of like retraining and keeping him there, because it's really just not fair to a horse ever, in my opinion, to put someone who's not confident and competent on the horse, and that's regardless of age, right? You can have some very confident and competent kids that are great riders, and they're great for the horse, and you have the opposite in adults too. So it's really not about age; it's more about their confidence and their competence. And I don't think that she would be a babysitter type of horse where you could take someone who's not those things and just throw them on her and just expect a good outcome. Um, the reason I don't think that would work is right now she has a pretty big attitude problem that we need to work through. And I'm going to work through that, and I'm going to get that gone before I give her back to you at all, or I mean, you can take her back if you want, but before I bless her off and say, yes, here is your new horse that is going to be safe, she's going to have that attitude fixed. But if you then put a kid that's not confident and competent on her, she's going to go right back to that same old attitude. So that's my opinion on whether she's a kid horse. She needs someone who's going to be able to maintain the relationship and the leadership that I've shown to her during this training time. So let me kind of get into what I've been doing with her. So I started out like I do with every horse, doing a lot of off-lead groundwork in the round pen. I showed you some videos on that. It did some good stuff for the first maybe week, but then it started really kind of, I don't want to say backfiring, but becoming non-productive, I would say. And so that's okay. I have a lot of different tools and techniques that all accomplish the same goal. And every horse, it's a big part of the training process with each horse is just figuring out which tool and technique is going to be the one that unlocks that horse's brain. And so I switched my technique from what I was working on, which was off lead groundwork, and I went ahead and put her on lead. And I did a slightly different version of groundwork, and it's worked really well. She's been responding to it really, really well. And so you can see right now she's pretty focused, pretty relaxed, not perfectly each one. You can see that front foot's out. She's not quite balanced, but she's focusing on me nicely. I don't need the lead rope quite that tight. She's not walking around on her own. She's just here with us, present. This is what I want. So the big thing that was not working for me in the off-lead groundwork was she was able to turn her butt to me, and she kind of wanted her go-to. She kind of has two go-tos. One is rearing and one is kicking out with her hind feet. And most horses are scared enough of a flag or the whip that you don't have to put a lot of pressure on them to get them just to leave. And they can't kick if they're moving, because they got to either use their feet for kicking or moving. So usually that kicking thing's not much of an issue because you can just get them moving. Well, she didn't have a lot of respect for the flag or the whip, which is kind of a good thing. It means she's not going to be scared of a lot of stuff. But because she didn't have any respect for those things, she would just sit there and just start kicking. And I was like, okay, this is not, I don't want to teach your horse to kick. So I kind of quit doing that when I realized that was going to become unproductive and went ahead to on lead groundwork. And on the lead, she has tended to, she probably won't as much today, but she has tended to stick her head to the outside, which if you think about when the horse is doing off lead groundwork, if her tension's out to the outside, it's very easy for her to stick her butt into the person doing groundwork and potentially kick, right? So it's the same problem. It's that thoughts are to the outside, defense mechanisms are to the inside. And what we need to do is change that to where her shoulders and even maybe butt is lifted to the outside, but she's focusing to the inside. And so the tool I'm going to start out with today, I've been using a couple different techniques, but the first one is I'm going to ask her to go. And if I see her head kind of canting to the outside, kind of like right there, I'm going to start to work up the rope, and I'm going to use picking up on the rope, just like I would on the rein. I'm going to pick up on the rope and ask her to bend her head to the inside and get soft. Now, if she gives it to me, then I'll release. But if she doesn't, I'm going to keep working up the rope. I'll just kind of demonstrate here at a stop. I'm going to keep working up the rope until I get up here to my lateral flexion position. Okay, now if you're not familiar with lateral flexion, you probably are, but I'll just kind of go through it. I'll bring her over closer to the camera where you can see it a little bit better here. And I'll talk through lateral flexion real quick. So lateral flexion means basically bending the neck to the side, right? Lateral means to the side, flexion means bending. So I'm going to ask her to bend her neck and her face all the way around to this side. So I'm going to pick up on this rein, or in this case the lead rope, and as soon as she gives to that pressure, I release. Now I'm going to ask her to do it again and release. Now what I really like about her, and I have some other horses in training that are not as good at this, when she does give to that lateral flexion, her eye comes with her head, which you'll see with a lot of horses, especially ones that have been shut down like her, and I thought she was going to be this way, so I'm very pleasantly surprised she's not. When she flexes her head around, a lot of horses' eyes will look away from you. They'll be like looking over there, but their head's going this way, and it's like unbalanced, and it's just not what you want. They're blocking you out is basically what's happening. Well, what that's going to translate to is when you pick up on that rein, their thoughts are going to go away from it. And that's the exact opposite. When we pick up on a rein when we're under saddle, we want their thoughts to go with the rein. That way they steer around nicely. We can bend them around to a stop. If we get into trouble, we can pick up on both reins and we bring their attention into themselves instead of out where they're going to be scared of stuff. So I really like with her that I can walk up here, pick up on this rope or rein or whatever, and her head comes towards me. She puts slack in the rope. Her eyes come with it, with her head. I'm going to ask for a little bit more. That's not bad. She put slack in the rein. I'm going to ask for a little bit more. There, she gave just a little bit more. I'm going to ask for a little. So I released, and then I'm asking for more. You got to give her the release first. Now here, she's at the point where she's like, okay, I don't really, this is her talking, she doesn't really want to bend her neck, right? So she moves her feet instead. There. She gave a little bit more with her neck. So I'm going to start working groundwork in conjunction with lateral flexion, and what this is going to do is release all that tension in her neck. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to walk forward. Now, if she'd been paying more attention to me right there, she wouldn't have gotten that little slap on the butt, right? But she wasn't paying any attention to me, and therefore she gets that. So that's kind of where that attitude adjustment piece comes in. She kind of goes, yeah, I know you want me to go forward, but I don't really care. And so, you know, like I said in the text, I'm not going to go up and just beat her ass and be like, you need to listen to me. But I am going to let her know that, hey, if you listen to me, things are very easy, as in you just walk around and I don't have to slap you on the butt. But if you don't pay attention to me, things are more difficult. Same thing right there. I asked her to stop, and she stopped. I would have liked her to come in and focus on me a little bit more, but for starters, that's okay. I asked her to stop, she stopped, and she gets to rest now. If she had not stopped, then she would have had to go the other direction, and it would have been more of an ordeal. Okay, now she's not focusing on me at all right now, right? So I'm going to go ahead and point, drive in, there. And then she actually, you can even see it in the sand right there. She put some effort into that. As soon as she realized I was serious, she goes, oh, I need to get out of here. And that's exactly when I take that pressure away. Now I like how her ear is on me. She's slightly bent into the inside right there. She's licking and chewing. That's excellent. Her attention went to the outside there just a little bit, but I was easily able to bring it back in. If I pick up on this rope, right there, did you see her head bend into me a little bit, and then she even slowed down? So now I'm gonna ask her to keep walking. Now she's gotta pay attention to what I'm asking here. Good. And that wasn't a huge ordeal. Why? Because she thought about going to her, what would have been, to her left, which is that way. Anyway, she thought about going the wrong way. And I said, no, that's not the way I'm asking. I'm going to put more pressure until you figured it out. And then she yielded and went the way I asked her to. That's the process of getting rid of that. And there's a big sigh and lick and chew. That's the process of getting rid of that attitude, or getting an attitude adjustment that I was talking about. Okay, I'm going to ask her to stop. Good, right there. She put both eyes on me. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. She put both eyes on me. There's another lick and a chew. Very, very good. So like I said, I wasn't getting anywhere doing the off-lead groundwork for whatever reason. I go to the on-lead groundwork and everything's working really great. So, you know, I'm not going to get frustrated or push the technique that's not working. Later on, as she gets really good at this, I might go back and teach her how to do the off-lead groundwork. But right now, I'm just using these tools to get to her brain. I don't care which tool works and which tool doesn't work. I'm going to use the tool that needs to work, that I need to use to get to her brain. Okay, let's do a little bit more. That one little interaction right over here where she wanted to go the opposite way, but then she very quickly yielded to me and went the way I asked her to, and it wasn't a big fight. That's really encouraging to me. That tells me we're getting a lot closer to, like you said, her being a kid horse than we were before. Ask her to go. Let her know I'm serious. Now, she never really put any energy or try into that. She kind of was just like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll go. And so there I'm going to get more serious about it and let her know, hey, when I tell you to go, you need to go. And that's what's going to fix your trot to canter transition that you were talking about the first day as well. If I ask you to canter, you just need to canter. You don't need to be thinking about pinning your ears or bucking or pitching a fit or whatever. You just need to move out when I ask you to move out. Ask her to go. A little sluggish right there. I'm going to get her moving. Now see, if in the little pen when I did this off lead, I really like that right there. She's looking at me with both eyes, more straight on than she's been. When I had to get a little insistent with her there and kind of say, no, you need to move your feet. In the round pen, or not a round pen, but in the little pen where I was doing the off-lead groundwork, she would have turned her face to the outside, stuck her butt towards me, and thought about kicking. And then I had to make a choice. Do I stand in there and get bigger and get kicked? Or do I back off and still try to get big but stay out of range of her hooves? And it's just a mess. So I said, well, screw that. I'm just going to come out here. And you can see that's working great because she doesn't have the option of turning her face away because she is giving to the halter really well. So, and that's one thing I like about her. She's never pulled the rope out of my hands. She's never just turned and run off. You know, most horses won't, but I have had, especially like Mustangs, can be really bad about that. They're just like, I'm just gone. And I'm strong, but I'm not strong enough to hold a horse that's running completely against me. She's never just done that. So I feel very confident tying her, bringing her out here where there's no fences. I don't have any fences on this outdoor arena. I know she's not going to get away from me because she does give to that halter. And that's super important. That's really great that she does. Okay, let's do some more groundwork. Point. There is a little bit more effort. Not too bad. Now there she's looking to the outside. I'm going to bring her face to the inside. I'm going to pick up on this rope again. And I'm going to keep driving her. Now she's going the wrong direction. And then the pressure comes off when she goes the correct direction. So what happened in that little instance was when I picked up on this lead rope, she stopped moving her feet in order to bend her head in towards me. So she basically, her neck was too stiff when her feet are moving in order to be able to bend it into me. And that's very common. And so she stopped her feet in order to look at me and unlock her neck. And then I said, no, I need you to keep moving your feet, but keep your neck unlocked. And she goes, well, I can't do that, so I'm just going to go the other way. And so we just worked through that. And we said, no, you're not going to go the other way. You're going to go the way I tell you to. And then I'm just going to keep picking up on this rope and asking her to bend her face to the inside. Right there. Good. She kept moving her feet, and she gave me that eye right there. Now she's turning to the outside a little bit. I'm going to pick up on this rope. Keep moving her feet forward. And she gave just a little bit right there. Now you can tell it's taking a little while, and she's not really getting to that rope very well. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and work up this rope and go right into lateral flexion. I'm going to try to get into lateral flexion in a spot where you can see it. Right about here is where I'd like it to be. Now I'm going to hold this rope until she gets soft to it. Soft meaning she puts slack in the rope. So if you think about my fist here being a fixed point in space, I'm not right there. She put some slack in it. I'm not going to keep pulling, and she gives and I pull, and she gives, I pull, and she gives and I pull, because that's teaching her, why would she give, right? Why would you give if you just know you're going to get taken up more and more and more? Once I pull to a certain point, my fist is going to be a fixed point in space, and when she gives and puts that slack in the rope, I'm going to release and give it back to her. That's what's going to create a soft horse and a safe horse. Right about there, she puts slack in the rope, and I release. It takes a lot of practice to build up your muscle memory to where you actually release and not pull. Because we as humans, we're like, oh, I got a little bit, pull more. And you can't do that. You'll teach them to pull against you if you do that. And that's why it's so hard to answer the question, like, is the horse a kid horse? Because, it doesn't take any physical strength to pick up on that rope, and when she gives to it, release. But it takes a lot of mental strength to do that, right? And there are plenty of kids who can do that and are capable of that, mentally there. There are plenty of kids who are not mentally there, though, and they'll just yank and pull. I don't know which one your kids are. I've never met your kids. So if you think that they can be trained to pick up, and when she gives, release. Pick up, and when she gives, release. Pick up, and when she gives, release. If they're capable of that mental control over their body, then they're completely going to be able to ride her. But I just don't think that she's going to be able to handle somebody, and really no horse should have to. That's just not fair to put anyone who's not competent on a horse. It's not like a motorcycle where, or a first car, you give your 16-year-old a car and they go wreck it, and like, well, as long as they didn't get hurt, it wasn't a big deal. Well, the car doesn't have feelings and everything, but I just don't feel like a horse should have to put up with a human that doesn't know how to ride. It's not nice to the horse. And release right there. See that slack in that rope? That's what I'm after. Okay, so if she can do that now at the at the standstill, I should be able to ask her to go forward. She went forward completely off my point there. I didn't have to back that up at all. I love that. And as she's going forward, I should be able to pick up on this rope. And I got a little bit of bend there, a little bit more than I did before. A little bit of bend there. If I don't feel like it's enough, I feel like right there she locked up her pole a little bit and I didn't get a lot of bend. I'm going to work right up here into lateral flexion. There, look how much softer that was. That's what I want. Now this is her reward, me leaving her alone for a second. And then I'm going to ask her just to walk forward again. And there she goes forward. She knows how she kind of sucked back for a second. That's going to happen when you're under saddle too, and she needs to know how to transition into that forward motion. One of her go-tos is rearing. Rearing is a tough one, but that little suck back that she did is the start of rearing. her ability to transition into that forward gear and get moving forward is what's going to keep her from rearing. So again, if your kids are riding her and she kind of gets into that sucky back trying to rear thing, they're going to have to be able to have the confidence to squeeze her forward, get her feet moving, and get her into forward motion, and then she can't rear. You know, and of course, I'll get her to where she knows how to do all that stuff, but it's still going to be up to them to actually do it. Right there, she got a little stuck to the outside. So I'm going to pick up. Good. Now I like that she bent in and she's really looking at me, but she's still supposed to be walking forward, right? So I'm going to get her back into that forward motion. And then when she gets into the forward motion, look what happened to her neck. It got stiff, right? Got locked out to the outside. So I'm going to pick up on this and get her back to the inside. Okay, now she's not really responding to this rope the way I'd like her to. She's not turning in. So I'm going to come up here and come all the way to lateral reflection. Good. Now, did you see right as I approached her shoulder, did you see her neck go and get stiff? It was perfectly positioned for the camera to see. That needs to go away. And that's just a matter of repetition at a time. Every horse starts there. But if I'm under saddle and I'm riding and I pick up on that rein, her first instinct has to be soften and give, right? Down here or to the side, but not brace and come up, okay? She's not a safe horse until I can pick up on that rope and her first instinct is soften and give. Because this is going to translate directly to the bridle once she knows this really well. Go. I'm going to get after her right there because if I get up close enough to her to feel like I might be in danger of being kicked, and she wasn't going to kick right there, but if I'm close enough to her hind end that I can reach her with the rope or she could kick me, she should have been gone by now. I'm giving her the cue. We've been doing this for 2 weeks. She knows that means go. See that little bit of effort right there? That's what I want. Good. Now, look, now that I got that effort, she's watching me. Do you see her walking forward here and watching me? That's what I want. Good. This is good right here. Her head is just barely canted towards me. She's paying attention to me. Whenever her attention kind of goes to the outside, it comes right back to me. I'm going to go ahead and let her stop right there. That was an excellent circle. That might have been the best circle that she's done since I've had her, honestly. And you notice now, hopefully you can see her still in the camera. You notice now all 4 feet are on the ground. She's watching me. She's paying attention. She's fairly calm. She hasn't actually licked and chewed yet, but she's just present. Like, this would be a safe horse to be riding right now in this mental state. But it's taken us how long to get her at this mental state? So I think yesterday, of course it was super cold yesterday, but I think yesterday it took me 35, maybe 45 minutes to get her to this same state where she's locked in, ready to go. What do you need? Calm and responsive at the same time. Today it maybe took me 15 minutes. Hopefully tomorrow it takes me 10 and then 5 and then 1. And pretty soon when I'm out here and she's just naturally calm and responsive, then I'll be like, well, what the hell am I doing groundwork for? Well, let's go ride, And that's kind of when I know I'm ready to ride instead of do groundwork. But I don't want it to take me 15 minutes to get her to this point every day. So that's got to get quicker and quicker. And then also, if I take her in and put the saddle on her and that spins her up out of this state, well, then I know I need to work and get her back to this state. I need to do things that are going to get her up and then bring her all the way back down. And things that are going to get her up, bring her all the way back down. And eventually those cycles don't take very long. And I know, okay, I'm ready to get on her and ride because she now has the mental tools to calm herself down. And that's the goal. So I think here I'm just going to wait for a lick and a chew. She's very focused. So I think I talked about this before. This is what I call the unstable state. So the unstable state is when your horse is focused on you and its feet are stationary on the ground, planted, but it's before it's actually relaxed and licked and chewed. So it's just focused, right? That's the unstable state. And I call it unstable because the horse is not going to remain in that mental state forever. It's just not. It's either going to then, okay, relax and lick and chew, or it's going to go down a whole other myriad of potential paths that it could go down. All those other paths are coping mechanisms. The one path we want her to take is relaxation, right? So what are some coping mechanisms that she could choose to exit this unstable state? Well, she might walk in on top of me. She's done that a couple times. One of her go-tos this last week, when I was working inside the indoor in there, was when she finally relaxed, she'd just start walking in towards me. And then we'd go back to work. And I like the relaxation, but you got to be relaxed on your own over there. You can't be using me for your relaxation. What else? She might stick her head up in the air and get real locked onto something and focused, and not focused on me, focused on something else, and kind of mentally go over there as a coping mechanism so she doesn't have to think about her own crap going on here, right? What else might she do? I have some horses that chew on the lead rope. That's their go-to. They're mouthy and they just have to be chewing. And again, you're not going to work on training them not to chew on the lead rope in that circumstance. You're going to work on getting them to that unstable state, showing them that chewing on the lead rope's not the best option, and eventually they'll find that relaxation. So she's very much in the unstable state. She's not choosing any of the bad coping mechanisms so far, but she hasn't found the relaxation. And so now my job is just to wait until she finds the relaxation. Or if she chooses a different coping mechanism that I haven't seen before, I might have to show her that that's not a good idea, which would just be simply by putting her back to work. Ask her to go left, ask her to go right, ask her to stop. And this can take a while. I've stood not with her, she usually looks and chews pretty quick, but I have stood here and watched horses over an hour just standing and waiting. She doesn't normally take that long, but she could. So and hopefully you can see in the camera, she's focused on something over kind of between me and the camera over there. Good, she brought her attention right back. So I'm not going to be a focus Nazi, right? I'm not going to say, you have to look at me and only me, and you have to drill a hole in me with your eyeballs, right? That's not what I'm saying. But it's like if we're having a conversation, and I look over there, and I look back. You don't think anything is weird about that, right? But if we're having a conversation, and I go like that, and you're just talking to me, and I'm just like this, you'd be like, hey, dude, like, what's going on, right? Hey, is anybody home? The same thing with her. If she looks at something, and then she's like, whatever, and she comes back, great, no big deal. But if she looks at something and stays for a while on it, then the first thing I might do is, hello, is anybody home? The way I like to do that is like rub my jacket like that. Maybe snap my fingers, maybe clap my hands, slap my leg, something that's going to draw their attention back to us. If you get their attention back on you, then great, just stop the pressure and wait, But if you can't get it back on you, then you need to escalate until you're actually asking them to do something and move their feet, which is putting them to work. So then not focusing on you becomes more work, and focusing on you becomes less work, right? Everything comes back to make the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy. So once again here, she's very focused. She's relaxing, but she has not licked and chewed. Shifted her weight. There's a lick and a chew. Now it's worth noting that for her to lick and a chew, for her to find the lick and chew, she had to look around, right? I was talking about it earlier. I don't know if I talked about it in the video, but definitely in the text. The attitude adjustment that she needs, or the bad part of the attitude that she has, is she thinks she's, I don't want to say in charge. She thinks that everything is up to her to keep her safe. She doesn't believe that humans are going to keep her safe. She doesn't believe that she has a herd that's going to keep her safe. She thinks the weight of the world is on her shoulders and she needs to take care of it. And so that's why she feels like if she has that responsibility, then she also needs the authority to make the decisions, right? Because if your safety is your responsibility, you should also have the authority to make decisions about yourself. So that's why when we ask her to do something, if it's what she already wants to do, it goes really well. Like, she's pretty good horse to have around the barn, right? If you need to go catch her and take her somewhere, as long as it's kind of her idea, she gets along great. But as soon as you need her to do something that's not her idea, like maybe you tie her up and then take all her buddies away, it kind of hits the fan, right? Because she's going, well, that's not fair. I'm in charge of my own safety, but now you're tying me up and putting me in an unsafe place. So the attitude adjustment that we're trying to make is showing her that actually I have the authority over her, but that also means I have the responsibility for her safety. And so she needs to focus on me, and what I'm going to do for her is make things very easy on her. I'm going to be consistent, competent, and confident. If I can make that deal with her and get her to buy into that deal, she'll give up that responsibility for her safety, and thereby also give up the need for that authority. And that's why if you put a kid on her that doesn't understand that leadership structure, then she's just going to take that authority right back away from that kid, and now you got a dangerous situation. Okay, so she licked and chewed. She's blinking a lot. Her head's about at Withers level or lower. She's in a great spot. I'm going to go ahead and end the video. I'll probably do a little more work with her today, but my biggest thing day to day today is just getting her to this point and trying to make it faster every day to get her to this point. And then if something gets her spooked, or if I ask her to do something that she doesn't want to do and we have a fight, how quickly can I get her back to this licking and chewing and focused point? That's going to determine the pace of training is just that. So anyway, hope that all makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good day.